Hi, everybody.
Howdy ho.
We are trying to survive the post earnings lull of probably the most intense hour we have at Laughing Place every.
It's pronounced
quarter.
lol.
Lols.
Yeah, lol.
It's only because you don't have to do the shareholder hour. That one's far more intense.
Well, we're gonna have another big thing coming up in a couple months when they have their next investor day and announce all the stuff that they're adding to Disney Plus that they didn't originally intend to do. But so the top line and bottom line number don't matter. Revenue was down more than expected. They made more money than expected because they had a sort of hidden gain due to their ownership of DraftKings. But none of that really.
I want to talk about.
Well, they had an investment and went public. They got a non-cash gain.
I know. I just think it's funny. Like, we all knew that they owned that stake, but Bob Iger seemed so insistent and acted like it wasn't real because he kept saying, we have no interest in this. And then people would be like, well, what about this? We're like, no, not a thing. It's a thing. It's on your balance sheet now.
But in the end, so I don't know if you were here earlier. I mean, Kyle was, but originally I said what's going to happen is the earnings are going to come out. It's going to go down, and then Bob Chapek's going to talk and say about how everything's going to go great, and then the stock's going to rebound, which is exactly what happened.
And he wasn't on CNBC, so you knew it was.
So, basically, there was bigger losses at Disney Plus direct to consumer than they expected. So that dropped the number down. But the reason there were bigger losses is because they had more subscribers and they've been growing that business and investing more in marketing and stuff than they originally anticipated. So once you realize it's down because they're spending more on it and the subscriber numbers go through the roof, it's not so bad. And essentially Disney has reached its 5-year target for Disney Plus subscribers in less than a year.
The low end.
What's that?
The low end of the target, but still.
The low end of the target, true. But so as of yesterday, had 60.5 million subscribers to Disney Plus. And I mean, just for kicks, Hulu has 35.5 million as of the end of the quarter. And ESPN Plus has 8.5, which is up from 2.4 last year. A lot of those people are probably on the Disney bundle, so they kind of get Hulu, ESPN Plus as part of a package.
Yeah, it was interesting that the number that Hulu went up, the raw number, not the percentage that Hulu and ESPN went up, was more or less the same, which makes you think they're really just all getting the bundle.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks to other people for pointing that out to me.
And we essentially there's been a big pressure for the bundle. Like, I know they communicated to us, like, hey, don't forget the bundle. If you watch ESPN, the bundle's always on the, side there. If you were a Disney Movie Club member, you could get a free movie on DVD if you got the bundle. I don't know why you would need a movie if you have the bundle, but that was a thing. So, and because essentially they've had success with that, they're launching Star, which is one of their brands, internationally next calendar year, which will be their general audience offering in addition to Disney Plus. So you'll have Disney Plus just like we do. Then they'll have Star. So we have Hulu. Hulu includes a lot of third-party content, like, from NBC and stuff, but from its sort of legacy as a catch-all. But this will be basically like Disney Plus for grown-ups and the touchstone of streaming services, and so they'll have that in tandem, and they'll probably have a bundle and all that. So that's big news. The other big news is Mulan, which was originally supposed to come out in March, is now coming under Premier Access to Disney Plus on September 4th. So what that means is if you are a Disney Plus subscriber, you can pay just under $30 and get Mulan. It's unclear how long, like if it's just for a couple days or if you basically add that title. It will come to Disney Plus eventually, just like it would if it was released theatrically. Mulan will still be released theatrically in territories that don't have Disney Plus. But, and I think it's important to know Bob Iger does not consider, Bob Chapek doesn't consider this like got to put a quarter in the jar. Where's the Bob jar? doesn't consider this like an ongoing thing, but more just like a one-time try it out. But he did say, obviously, if this does, we'll be watching. If this does great, we will we'll change that plan.
Do we know where Benji's going? No. Do we?
Okay.
Do we know you spend your $30? First of all, you have to be a Disney Plus.
Also, we don't know. I know it.
That's a long way to go for that. So you have to be a Disney Plus member to do this premiere thing, correct?
Yes.
So you spend your $30. 2 months later, you decide you don't want Disney Plus anymore. Do you get to keep this movie somehow? Does it move the movies anywhere? Do we have any idea?
I don't think. I mean, the details were not sketchy. Were not released. I don't expect you would keep it if you left Disney Plus. It's not a purchase. It's a premiere access.
That would seem to. I mean, we'll see, but I wouldn't buy one at that price unless I get to keep the movie. I mean, in 2 months you can buy the movie for $12 and keep it forever. Anyway, go ahead.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you're comparing it to, it's not replacing digital download, it's replacing the theatrical window. So in that aspect, if you're a family of 4 or 5 watching a movie for $30 instead of going to the theater, that's what you kind of have to compare it to. It's probably going to be a rental where you have it for 48 hours.
That is perfectly logical, and it's not how a lot of people think, including probably myself.
Well, I think, DreamWorks had success with the Trolls premiere access. It was $10 cheaper, I think. It was like $20, if I'm not, or maybe 24. But, because people want to have, new movie of this scope. I mean, I've seen the film. It's not a small
You've seen Mulan?
Experience. I've seen Mulan.
No, too special. Interesting point. Didn't Disney Plus launch in November last year?
Yes.
So we're getting close to that year point. I'm sure there were a lot of year subscribers. So maybe Mulan can entice some people to hold on. And so that's all.
Yeah, well, and, be interesting
what the numbers do at the 1 year point.
Bob Chapek did say that they have they find that basically new marquee content brings people in, but when it comes to what they actually watch, it's primarily library content. So I don't know that, the churn that people were worried about doesn't seem to be a big problem for them. I mean, obviously you're only in the, monthly subscriber window at this point where people would drop off, but it seems like they find other things to watch on the service after. And I mean, if you look at what's trending, it's a lot of Simpsons, a lot of Jesse. It's classic, sort of classic Disney. Although it's weird to call Jesse classic, but I guess it is at this point. So obviously, that's our focus, is the direct to consumer. As I said, there's going to be another sort of dog and pony show in the coming months. It'll be interesting to see how they do that with, the social distancing stuff. And we'll have live coverage of that. Obviously, a lot of our readers care about the parks. The Walt Disney World is profitable, just not as profitable as they originally forecasted based off of what they expected the attendance to be, because there's been sort of a resurgence of COVID-19 in Central Florida. So they're seeing a lot of cancellations. And that's why you probably was a guess when, saw the park pass window open up for annual pass holders, as it got closer, they start adding, availability to local versions as people cancel from their resort stays. But when they do come, they spend money. Their per cap spending on food, beverage, merchandise is strong. So it seems like there is pent-up demand. Just not quite sure, when people are going to get comfortable going to Walt Disney World at this point with the way the numbers in Florida are going. But it does forebode well that when, it's over or it's under control, there'll be strong demand. About half the guests to Walt Disney World are from out of the area.
Do we know what we consider a local market?
Driving distance. There used to be a qualification. I don't know what that. I don't remember what it was, but it's basically like a 2-hour drive.
Oh wow! Okay, that's smaller than I would have thought.
And they mentioned not just Disney parks, but Disney World is operating at a profit. But that's just something they're just guidance, right? Because that's Was that it reopened after the quarter ended technically?
Yeah. So, yeah, it opened after the quarter, but that's future guidance, so it wouldn't be impacted in the results today.
Yeah. So we don't see the actual numbers, but they're just telling us that it is operating at a profit, which is good because I think we all wondered that.
Also, I want to go on a little soapbox. When they say COVID-19 had a $3.5 billion impact, that does not mean a $3.5 billion loss. They do not. It means that's $3.5 billion that they would have had if there was no COVID, based on expectations. But people seem to think, wow, Disney lost $3.5 billion because of COVID. I guess you could say that, yeah, they lost the ability to make that 3.5, but it's not like their bank accounts reduced by $3.5 billion.
In fact, they have so much cash, some people wonder if they should start doing something with it. One other thing that went into that $3.5 billion that surprised me, they've said they've spent $1 billion in protecting their guests, cast, and talent.
No, they're budgeting to spend $1 billion moving forward. A large part of that will be on production. Okay. For example, like it will take, instead of taking a week to film an episode, it'll take 8 days or something to that effect. So, but then those costs will be amortized in the cost of show. Whereas at the parks, the masks and the social distancing costs and the extra cast members, that is expensed as it goes forward.
That's a lot.
Yeah, but I think it's interesting. I don't know across how many productions that is, right? Like, a $250 million movie becoming a $252 million movie isn't going to move the needle.
I would love. They did not separate out parks for that, though, which is
no. They didn't.
Love to know how much that's costing.
You would have asked a better question than maybe all the analysts. Yeah.
Yeah, I was saying they have 3 questions they just ask in different dumb ways.
What are your big franchises?
We have $11 billion franchises, I'll have you know.
Do you expect Disney Plus to keep growing?
Yeah, that was no, I wasn't even, do you expect it to keep growing? Do you expect to keep trying to make it grow? Or do you see a plateau as being a potentially better solution? What are you talking about? Is there a plateau?
Is there a logic to that question I didn't get? I mean, I guess so. No. If you're spending a lot of money on growth, stop spending that money and get profitable. But
yeah. Also, when they announced at the beginning that they're going to do a special investor event to provide updated guidance, you don't need to spend all of your time asking for updated guidance, because you know what they're going to tell you? We're going to tell you at the investor event that we already told you about.
Yeah. So one of the things they said, correct me if I'm wrong, as you have already, they furloughed over 100,000 people, but most of them have already been brought back?
They say most of them have been brought back. Obviously, the parks is probably less brought back than others.
Yeah, define.
But 100,000 people is a lot. That's probably...
It's like 10 times 10,000 people.
No, it's probably, it's probably a good third of the company.
It's huge. And yet most of them are now back at work. They've just altered how working works, presumably.
Right. I'm sure most are still at home. I don't think, parks, you got to separate out this kind of thing between parks, where obviously you have to be there, and, the studios, television, everything else, where, they can work from home and are. I don't think there's a lot of people in the studio a lot that are not directly associated with production. The other thing that is funny is so Disney's fiscal year ends, at the end of September. But because, it doesn't break out evenly, every couple of years there's a third fiscal week. And this year is impacted because all of the sports playoffs are expected to happen in that 53rd week. So it's actually going to cost them more instead of making more money by having an extra week. Because, you'll have baseball, you'll have the NBA and stuff, kind of having to pay that bill towards the end there.
Were you surprised that they didn't give a firm release date for Mandalorian, just the same October? I thought that was really going to be a no-brainer for them. It's only a couple months away at this point.
Disney likes to have like a knockout news thing in the earnings, and I kind of expected Mandalorian to be that, because I didn't or maybe like we still don't know what's happening with New Mutants, right? But
someone tweeted that they're breaking it down into 23 episodes and moving it to Quibi. That's unofficial.
when you announce the the Mulan thing, it kind of makes the Mandalorian seem like you save that for another day. I fully expected. I had Mike on standby. I fully expected.
I am surprised that none of the analysts asked about. There he goes again. Spending at Walt Disney World. I mean, especially they've got a bunch of huge projects that they announced within years. And
we know that they reduced capital expenditures at the domestic parks. And it's going to be about capital expenditures across the company will be $700 million less than previous year. And most of that savings is coming from suspended projects at domestic parks. In addition to the fact that last year you had Galaxy's Edge opening, so last year was going to be higher anyway.
Yeah, so I knew Galaxy's Edge part of that, and just thought maybe they'd at least try to get them to be a little more specific into what does suspension mean and what specific things have been shelved.
I don't think they care. I think that's a Disney fan question, not an investor question, because it's not a major project. They're not canceling a cruise ship or a big. No, but they're.
I don't think, though, to dwell on the fact that Mary Poppins is canceling, but by what percentage are you scaling back the Epcot expansion or the Disney World changes? That's all. I'm a fan. Sorry.
Yeah. So, I guess there's still a lot of questions we're waiting for. Like, what's the future? The content plan for Disney Plus is now new. We know that they're going to expand that out. Obviously, the technical logistics of Mulan. We don't know anything about Disneyland at this point. I'm sure they don't either. The rest of the films, New Mutants, Kingsman, all those films that are coming out sort of in the near future. Yeah. So, there was talk about how, what's it called? The Woman in the Window is being sold to Netflix.
Yeah.
That doesn't seem to be finalized, but it seems like a weird choice considering Disney has a streaming service.
I also know how much of an impact Peacock has had on their bottom line.
If only they had Saved by the Bell, the third class or whatever it is. So I'm just checking to see if there's any news came in.
The lovely graph of what Benji talked about. See that big spike? Benji mentioned that's where Chapek comforted everyone.
Yeah, every time.
If only there was a way to make money off of that.
What's that?
If only there was a way to make money off of that.
It's it makes me excited and optimistic. I mean, not so much on the parks. I mean, the parks are an afterthought right at this point, but at least they seem to be. There's still growth. What I felt like before this, Disney was frozen. We were gonna, they're making movies when they could, but like now it seems like they're all in. They want, they're ready to make as much content as they can as soon as they're able to.
They have a way to release it.
So yeah. Anything anyone's got before we close?
Anything else coming up on LP Live later today?
I don't know. Did we? Isn't
there
it?
7:30 p.m. Pacific, 10:30 p.m. Eastern, 9:30 p.m. Kyle time. We've got Disney Trivia Live with myself and my son on fire. We'll be doing Disneyland, kind of a general history kind of quiz, and we'll be doing Indiana Jones, written by one of our regular viewers, Nick Morgan. So be sure to tune in for that. You can play along right with us, and we've got prizes. That's all.
I just want to say that I kind of enjoy how even the Disney CEO's Wi-Fi gets a little weird sometimes, and you hear him speak really quickly because the program is getting him back to live.
Breaking news: Disney is moving from Blue Jeans to Zoom.
Oh,
are they really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that is huge.
So they're not forever in Blue Jeans, like Neil Diamond had once said.
I guess not.
Have you gotten used to yet hearing Chapek's voice on these calls instead of Iger, Benji?
This is my Bob Iger jaw. Every time I say Iger when I mean Chapek, I put in a coin. So no. Especially since he's still around. It's not like he's gone.
Do you think he was watching the call or listening or something?
I think he was enjoying every minute he didn't have to be there.
He had a little thing that said "Lurking Bob."
Yeah.
That's a good one to end it on.
So yeah. So we will be back when they do their investor day in a few months. So, and check out Disney Trivia Live with Doobie and Gideon at 7:30 Pacific. Bye, everybody.